So what is the video for, if I'm able to know?
This documentary is basically about the Sikhs, the Sikh religions. They're supposed to not cut their hairs. And some people do, like me, you know.
In a sense, like, I never have ever thought about like cutting my hair. A lot of it had to do with learning more of Sikh history. That was my history that I was tied to, and because so much has happened to us because of how we look. For me to like be like, oh, okay, like that's what's happening, like let me cut my hair so I like look like the white man, wasn't something that appealed.
Even though I'm not a proper Sardar or Singh, but I belong to the Sikh family and I believe in Sikhism. I go to Gurdwaras and my kids, they could read and write Punjabis, even though they're born here.
Good, now then we get the point.
One of the things I tell my kids, you need to be wear the kada and you need to be tell the other people who you are. You should not be, calling yourself like, oh, I don't know about Punjabi, I don't know about the Sikh. I said, I don't want to hear that.
Sant kirpa te jam te chota jam ka mastak karm prabh paaye sadhu sharan nanak.
Okay. Can you cut a little more on the top? Yeah. And I see a lot of Sikhs with the turbans and this and that. They still eat meats, they still drinks. To me, that's like a fake Sikhs.
I almost felt like I was always being judged by our community. I always felt like I was constantly being judged of how good of a Sikh I was. Just being put in a spot, having like an expectation of exactly who I'm supposed to be, that you need to be someone who's going to attend Gurdwara all the time. You're just going to be someone who is going to do kirtan and harmonium, and that's all you're going to do. The people that I interacted with in the Gurdwara make me just feel like you have to follow a specific mold, otherwise you're not part of us. Basically trying to mold me into a person that I didn't want to be, and I would start to question, maybe is this really who I am? Is Sikhism really the box that I want to assign to myself?
I'd grown up in an environment where most of the Sikhs that I grew up in wore Amritdhari or looked very particular and practiced their Sikhi in a very particular way. And so when I was introduced to someone that didn't do the same, that led me to kind of question a lot of things. I was talking to a friend and I was like, oh, like we were talking about guys shaving their beards, but like keeping the stars. And I was like, that makes no sense to me. Like, do it all or don't do it. Like, I was like, and then she's like, but don't you do your eyebrows or don't you like shave your legs? And I was like, yeah. I think it has all to do with like this idea of beauty that's been placed on us like for a very long time. Like these are things that like little things that are always going to come up, or like super hairy eyebrows, or like PE, locker room, like quickly change into shorts when I need to because like, oh God forbid, all these like blonde-haired woman who like haven't shaved in a month, but you can't tell, but like I don't shave for a day, and you're like, oh shit, you must be like a descendant of gorillas.
When I was growing in Punjab, I was there in 1984, and I was wearing a turban, and I had my case. My brother was in college at that time, in Khalsa College in Jalandhar. His friends, his 5 friends, I remember it, they put them down on the roads and they beat him up. They put him down and they told them, you guys ever wear the turban again, we're gonna kill you guys. When I came to the United States in 1989, I believe, and I've been bullied a lot. They will pull my hairs because of that, fighting every single day. I always remember it, and I was playing in a baseball game, and where one of the African American kid came to and dragged me from my judo and my patka and that kind of stuff, and just they said, no, you can't play here. And I remember that, and that was really shocked me.
I've been going on this road of Sikhi, praying, but having these fluctuations in my mind. My cousin, she developed multiple sclerosis at a very young age. At that age, I was also thinking, God, can you help us? And I turned to Sikh, turned to this faith and hope that our parents had instilled in us. When that did not unveil as I hoped, and now she's 30 years old and still paralyzed, it shows you the unfairness of life. Why is it that we continue to pray, but we don't actually see the effects? What is God? Is God real? Is religion something that is real? And my mind would fluctuate back and forth. And then I would think, is this the appearance that I want? There was this one girl that, of course, I really liked. I was always like, oh man, like obviously, like it's because of my darty and my bug. That's why we're not going out. But I just remember kind of going up to the mirror, always being like, oh, how's my much looking? Like, oh, maybe my darty's a little bit too big, and I would put on gel and like try to bring it out like all close and things like that. And it's just all the insecurity would come out ways that people wouldn't understand. But me in front of my mirror, like, I'm looking at a different person because that person is so obsessed with the way he's looking. It came to a point when I felt that 18 is an age when I would be old enough to try to have a discussion with my parents.
My mummies and like masis will be like, why don't you shave your arms? And I'm like, that's something I've never crossed my mind. It's never like something I've done. But they'll be on my case like all the time. And even worse for my sister who doesn't even shave her legs. And then like if you question them, like why is this necessary? And it's like, well, it just looks nice, right? Like this doesn't look nice, it looks ugly. For me, it wasn't just a decision of like, when do I start shaving, right? Because there was a Sikhi aspect to it. There was like, most of my friends didn't shave. It was like bringing up that conversation with my mother. What parts of my body would I shave and which ones I wouldn't? It wasn't just like an easy decision of like, oh, sure, I'll just go borrow my mom's products or like ask a friend to do it. I remember basically like taking the Nair cream, like a little bit of it, and like putting it on my hand and like walking around the store and then like leaving it on and then like taking it off to see what it would look like. And like I did that secretly without telling my mom because like it was just like a test tube. In 7th grade, we were going on a family trip to Hawaii, and I refused to go. Like, I threw this tantrum, and I was like, I don't want to go, I don't want to go. And like, finally, my mom pulled me aside a couple days later, and I was like, why don't you want to go? And I was like, well, I know we're going to be swimming, and I don't want to swim. At which point, like, the next day, she like brought me shaving cream and a razor, and like, I shaved my legs. There is like a very heavy sense of guilt, and there's always like, I still carry that guilt. Like, every time I shave, like, I feel very guilty. And it's like, I tuck that away because I'm like, oh, well, I have to wear this dress, or I don't do it as often, or like this and that. But it's like definitely a sense of guilt always, because I wanted the best of both worlds. Like, I wanted to keep my Sikhi in that form, and I also didn't have to defy social constructs.
My brother took me to the barber shop. You know, I wasn't sure if I want to cut my hairs, and I remember it. And I was at the chair, on the barber chair, and the barber wouldn't cut my hair. He said, no, you guys are religious, and because you have so long hairs, and I just don't want to get in trouble. And my brother said, as a guardian, and I'm giving you authority to go ahead and cut the hair. It was kind of painful, but got to cut the hair, and then I came back home, and my grandfather was so mad with me. Why do you do that, this and that? But it was understandable, you know. I just don't want to be living in a school where sitting on the side because of case.
So sitting at home, our dinner table, it's a small circle. My father sat to my right, my mother to my front. My brother was still at school at the time, and I didn't want my brother to, of course, hear this conversation. When we had finished dinner and my mom picked up the plates and started to head to the sink, I looked to my father and I asked, Papa, I want to cut my hair. It was at that point that my mom immediately put her plates down on the sink, shocked, looked at me. My father, his face sterned, and said that I would not be his son if I had made that decision. I remember slamming the table with anger, then walking to my room, and then I actually then cried in my room. I was like, I felt like I have no control. I felt helpless.
A bunch of my Amritdhari friends helped me realize, like, I was hiding myself, thinking like, oh, I shave my legs, I can't tell them, I have to block them on Facebook and this and that. But they didn't care. They recognized, like, they were at a different part of their Sikhi, and like I was at a different part, and like that was completely okay. That made me grow like even closer, I guess, to my Amritdhari friends in a way that I may have not allowed myself to be before. I think for sure I've had more of a learning moment with accepting folks that like have different choices they make on visibility. Knowing that I too was in some part of that spectrum, being conscious of like me judging when the very fact that I was like part of that structure, and taking a step back and like, okay, like forget like what they don't do that may or may not be part of Sikhi or Sikh-red Marada. Like what do they do and what can I learn from in those respects? I'm very comfortable where I am at and where I'm headed. I'm more comfortable with like not shaving and like, you know, going around and like cut off pants or something like that in a way that I wasn't before. It's not like a black and white change, but it's an incremental change, and like it's me just eventually getting to a point where I feel like I can do it.
It was not only a couple of minutes after that my father and mother both came in, hugged me, and apologized. Said that they were sorry, that for them it was shocking news, that it was something that they weren't ready for, but that they would support me for any decision that I want to make, anything that I want to do, they will support me, but that I should think about this a little bit more. But my father said that I should at least grow as an adult and think about what it means to be a Sikh. And he had given me an ultimatum of the age of 22. When college ended and I kind of felt like, okay, wow, I'm now 22. This is when my dad said I could make a decision. As far as the cutting of the hair, at that point, yeah, I thought about it. But I decided that it is more important for me to keep my hair. For me, Sikhi maybe is not about just the way I look, but the way I look helps me associate with my identity, with my group and my community, and is a facial announcement to the world that I am someone who's here to protect and to serve others. That is why I am a physician scientist. But of course, as a man of science, when I think about Sikhi from the religious aspect, it's something that still in my mind fluctuates, and I'm still thinking about what that means for me.
I remember when I got home and my grandpa said, hey, you were the only one in the whole family with the turban, and now I don't have anybody after it. And I just felt sad, and I said, you know what, I will put my turban again when I be successful. I understand it's never going to end. We need more, you know, the money's not going to end. But my sons were the patka and everything, you know, so he reminded me every day, so I'm working on it.
From toilet clothes and tan skins, my fam is refugee status. Couldn't tell by their grandkids. Came from abandoned lands and empty hands. Ended one generation, went from colonies to mansions. Yes, I'm Punjabi, followed by no dashes. All over the atlas, my people in fashion. Hair so long, I tied it up, had to wrap it in my baggage. Finally making anthems.